Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paripuracharya Asutara Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaputale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Namne. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaputale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namne. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desutarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we are continuing our reading from the 11th canto, chapter 3, Liberation from the Illusory Energy, text 21. And we'll chant and then we can continue with the purport. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Brahmani Upasamashrayam Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatum Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Mothers. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. Please repeat after me. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. Should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. Very hard for them to understand that. Alright, so we continue from the paragraph that begins with the duty of the bona fide guru. Well, I think, do you have a microphone? Yeah. Maybe Brihad, you can read the first paragraph.
We're starting with the duty of the bona fide guru?
Yeah.
The duty of the bona fide guru is to connect the disciple to Krishna. A scholar or meditator has no potency to connect another living being with Krishna if that scholar or meditator himself is not connected with Krishna. Although many sports fans attend gymnastic competitions and applaud at the exhibition of difficult calisthenic feats, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not such a gymnastic spectator, and he does not applaud the calisthenics exhibited by foolish persons in the name of yoga. Nor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead impressed by mediocre attempts at philosophical speculation, since the Lord has already given his own opinion in Bhagavad Gita, Shunu me paramam vacha. The word of Krishna is paramam vacha, the last word in knowledge. And Krishna says, Yaj gyatva neha bhuyo nyaj gyatavyam avashishyate. When you know this knowledge, there shall remain nothing further to be known. Krishna has also referred to his knowledge as Raja Vidya, the king of all knowledge.
Okay, yes. Patitta Pavana.
If one does not become a lover of Krishna, his connection with Krishna takes place indirectly, through the illusory potency of the Lord. The idea that one can attract the Supreme Lord through mere gymnastics or foolish speculation on the absolute truth is certainly a product of Maya. One who is connected to Krishna through his external, illusory potency can serve only as a material master to connect his so-called disciples to the same illusory energy. On the other hand, in Bhagavad Gita 9.13 it is said, Mahatmanas tu mam parta daivim prakritim ashritaha pajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. Those who are actually great souls have surrendered to the internal potency of the Lord and can similarly connect others to the internal pleasure-giving potency. A Mahatma is described in Bhagavad Gita as follows, Vasudeva sarvamiti sa Mahatma sudorlabhaha. Quote, he knows me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. End quote. It is to such a spiritual master who has reached the mature understanding that Vasudeva is everything that one must surrender. According to Sri Narada Muni, Yo vidwan sa gurur hari. Such a great soul is to be considered the external manifestation of Krishna himself. Krishna states this also. Acharyam mam vijaniyan navamanyeta karhichit namartya buddhyasuyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. Quote, one should know the Acharya to be myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. End quote. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27.
According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if a spiritual master cannot destroy his disciples' doubts by superior knowledge, the disciple will gradually become despondent in spiritual life. Because a bogus guru cannot actually give Krishna to the disciple according to the principle of rasa varjam, rasopi asya, the disciple will again become attracted to material happiness, not having achieved the bliss of Krishna's association. Such a weak disciple of a weak spiritual master will gradually become hopeless and discouraged in his attempt at self-realization, and will again become fascinated by the temptations of illusion such as women, money, and so-called intellectuality based on speculation and imagination.
Further symptoms of the bona fide spiritual master are given in the Upadeshamrita 1 as follows. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jivya vegam udaraprastha vegam etan vegancha vishahyeta dhira sarvam apimam prithivim sa shishyat. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demand, the actions of anger and the urges of the tongue, belly and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated upashamashrayam krodha lobhadi avasi bhutam. A bona fide spiritual master cannot be under the control of ordinary anger, greed and lust.
According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one who has understood the futility of material existence can approach a bona fide spiritual master. In the two previous verses, the futility of earthly and heavenly sense gratification has been described. Now, the natural conclusion is that one who has understood this should approach a bona fide spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master broadcasts the sound vibration from the spiritual planets called Vaikuntha. The inhabitants of the spiritual planets headed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself are certainly not deaf and dumb. They are in constant communication through unlimited transcendental bliss and knowledge. And the bona fide spiritual master can transmit this sound vibration of bliss and knowledge to his disciple. Just as a radio broadcasts mundane news, the bona fide guru broadcasts the news from Vaikuntha. This is confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur, Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtanam. The spiritual master also transmits to the disciple the holy name of Krishna, which is non-different from Krishna himself. The bona fide guru informs his disciple that every living entity is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord but quantitatively different, and thus engages the disciple in the loving service of the Lord. Because the living entity is qualitatively one with the Lord and is part of Him, there is an eternal loving relationship between them. And because the living entity is quantitatively different, that relationship is eternally one of service. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even though one may have the good fortune to accept a bona fide, highly qualified guru, if one maintains a taste for fruitive activities or mental speculation, one's advancement will be checked. But if a serious student surrenders to a bona fide spiritual master, there is absolutely no impediment to the transmission of perfect knowledge and bliss in the devotional service of the Lord. Om Ajnanathmirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshushanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachulum Pangum Langayate Girim Yadgripadamamande Shri Gurum Dunataranam Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaran Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Savodhido Gadadaya Pushpanta Chitra Sandho Tamonudo. This is actually a very famous verse. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreyo uttamam shabde parecha nishnatam brahmani upashamashrayam. The whole idea here is to taking shelter of a spiritual master. Spiritual master, not just someone who proclaims to be a spiritual master. We're talking about someone who has studied, who is in the disciplic lineage. Most often, if you nowadays when we are listening to all the classes on YouTube, right? A lot of devotees are giving. Ever so often, you get recommendation from the YouTube channel, and then they tell you about these Sadgurus, and then these big personalities, but when you find out who they are, they themselves have no gurus, but they proclaim to be gurus, and then oftentimes they have also studied the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they profess to understand the intricacies of the scripture itself, and then they try to explain, but it's all based on their own fruitive mentality or mental speculation. There's no disciplic understanding. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, if Srila Prabhupada gives the disciplic succession very nicely, and the original speaker of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna, right? So this knowledge goes from Krishna to Vyasadeva, Narada, and all Brahma, Narada, Vyasadeva, all the way to Srila Prabhupada. So there's validity in his statements. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada also mentions that if the spiritual master is not faithful to the instructions of his previous predecessor, acharyas and so on, then the potency is not there. There's no potency. What does it mean? It means people come just to listen, but nobody takes the topic or the instruction seriously. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions that prior to him coming to the West before 1966, right, 65, there were so many books printed, and by the 70s or 80s, there were over 700 different versions of Bhagavad Gita available to purchase from the bookstores. And Prabhupada was saying that, okay, so people are reading so many Bhagavad Gita, but you hardly find anyone taking the process seriously, spiritual life seriously. So what is the difference? The difference is the potency. And so we see here within this purport how the potency of spiritual master is so valuable and valid. It has sustenance. It enables one to elevate one's consciousness. Not simply going to a yoga studio and doing a few, gymnastics or calisthenics, as it's stated here, that one gets knowledge. You can't, you don't. Mostly the yoga studios are meant for toning the body, looking good, ultimately leading to sense gratification, that's all. Why have a good body? Why have a healthy body? What is the purpose? To enjoy, right? So there's a difference. Whereas if you understand real yoga itself, it is meant for having a healthy body, means to have a healthy mind so that one can use it to meditate, focus. Like if you have a cold or weak body, you can't breathe, then when you're meditating, then you stop, you cough a bit, and then you cough, then your meditation is broken. So therefore, all the yoga, asanas and pranayama, all are meant to elevate the mind, the consciousness, to focus on the goal, and that is the meditation of the Supreme Lord. Obviously, we don't do that in our bhakti processes. In the bhakti process, more engagement, physically engaging as well as mentally focusing. So we do at least minimum 2 hours chanting on the holy names. Because the efficacy of chanting itself also brings us to the same level of meditating in an asana. In fact, in this age, it's very hard to do asanas and keep your mind steady. Manaha chanchalam hi Krishna. He says, very difficult. The mind is so disturbing. Arjuna tells Krishna, when Krishna says, why don't you do this meditation if you want to go to the forest? And he says, hey Krishna, I can't do that. Obviously Arjuna must have tried, right? For him to say it's difficult. And it's not that he wasn't successful. He has meditated and had done he has achieved several boons from demigods and so on, but still he was saying it's difficult. And this is in the previous age when they were much, much more healthy and so on. So we have to take valuable lessons from people who have already experienced it, and people who are our well-wishers. They're not there simply giving us some, knowledge and then not even experience themselves. No. So the Bhagavatam is like that. It opens us to various ways of approaching the Supreme Lord. But Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas and so on are focusing on how we can approach Krishna through the disciplic line. Not faking it. Yeah? Sometimes there is a saying, right, fake it until you make it, But it doesn't work. You need to have a disciplic guru parampara like that. And the other aspect of it, it's not easy to also approach a spiritual master. A bona fide spiritual master, except for 1 or 2 maybe sampradayas nowadays, you hardly find the lineage properly explained. Even if you go to some Vaishnava sampradaya, they don't even know their acharyas properly. And so in Iskcon, thank God, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we know our disciplic succession, the gurus, who are they and so on. Therefore we can say that when we come into the Guru Parampara system in Iskcon, we are very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada also says, or rather he quotes, Brahmande Brahmati Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhakti Lata Bij. Bhagyavan Jiva, that means very fortunate, that he comes to the circle of devotees. And how is it that he becomes fortunate? Actually, it takes many, many lifetimes. What is that many lifetimes? Of doing Agyata Sukriti in the beginning. Doing some service, running around, seeing a devotee, getting excited, doing something, carrying a basket of flowers for the devotees, something, or buying something for a devotee, right? Or for the deities, some fruits, things like that. People who'd come often in the temple and they just do and they leave. All these are minor aspects of connecting with Krishna. Krishna is very pleased. So slowly but surely the faith increases. So Agyata Sukriti. Until eventually after several lifetimes they become sufficiently convinced. When they meet a devotee, then they take the process up. Ado Shraddha. The Shraddha is there. And then they take shelter of the devotees. So they are these fortunate living entities. Now having become fortunate, Krishna says, or Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one shouldn't just lose it also. One has to act on it. So Guru Krishna means Krishna seeing that the person is interested in their spiritual life. So therefore Krishna allows that living entity to approach a spiritual master in a proper disciplic successive line or lineage like that. It has to be. Otherwise the knowledge has no potency or efficacy. Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishi viddo. Sakalane mahato yoganasya parantapa. Krishna says the potency is gone, Arjuna. That's why you're finding all these kings are not able to govern properly. Because they don't have the proper spiritual understanding, because either they have rejected the spiritual authorities. Now in the olden days the politicians do not govern on their own senses. They govern based on what the Brahmins or the learned class advises them based on scriptures. Okay, you can do this, you cannot do it. Then they'll listen. But nowadays they don't care. Right? That's why you have chaos all over the world. And so Krishna tells Arjuna, this is the problem nowadays. It's all broken. Nobody wants to follow strictly, and therefore you find these problems here. So if the living entity, he wants to get out of this impermanent situation, he has to be serious in getting out also. Right or not? It's not a question of, okay, I know I have to have a guru. Okay, that's not enough actually. The other part is you have to be serious. What is that seriousness? I have to first take shelter of a spiritual master. How? By approaching him and by taking initiation. Of course, in our movement in Iskcon, we have set rules, regulations that the aspiring initiate has to follow. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, right? We had an initiation here. Patita Pavana and Gaurahari Prabhus, they took initiation very nicely. Why? They took shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And then after a couple of years of strictly following rules, regulations, and participating, they realized this is what I want. Chanting 16 rounds and following regulatory principles. They want to go back. Why? What? Because this is impermanent situation. They want a permanent situation. So if we are wanting permanent happiness, then this is what we have to do. This is the basis of the taking shelter of a spiritual master. Then it starts. After taking shelter of Guru, then the real discipline starts. So the Guru then guides. Oftentimes we don't see it, but the Guru actually is guiding. Through either the Shabda Brahma or his own vibrations, he is guiding the disciple through his classes or through the management authorities. We learn, we understand, then we perform, we act like that. Now if you don't want to take it up seriously, then there are so many gurus out there. So many gurus, tech gurus, media gurus, kangaroos, you can go and take shelter of all those people. And then you can hope to go back to Godhead, oftentimes you don't. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of how when he was in his Grihastha ashram, how he used to stay in either in a flat or a house, and he used to see across his home in another flat where he saw some man who was living his life with his family. But every morning Prabhupada saw that just before he went out, he didn't go to work. He changed his attire to a sannyas. And so he went out and then he went on the streets and started taking money and giving people something. So there are so many types of these cheating gurus. Pretentious, mityacharas. They themselves are pretending and they cheat other people. And because they may be able to do one or two things, they may be able to sit in the street corner for hours, so then they think they are better than the average Joe, It's a fact. So there are people like that. Sometimes even devotees, maybe they can sing nicely, then they think they're the best singers in the whole movement, right? And sometimes they give class, and then they think they are the most learned. right? Sometimes they go out in books and they think they are the greatest book distributors that the whole parampara has seen, But we have to understand we are nobody actually, because we have to learn from a spiritual master. We have to learn from authorities who can guide us. Why? What are they guiding us? They are guiding us back to God. As we are reading this purport, the spiritual master is trying to connect the devotee or the aspiring person, and he's teaching them how to love Krishna. How do you love Krishna? First you need to love the devotees, that's why we have sadhu sangha. In sadhu sangha you will learn achar, then prachar, then obviously this achar and prachar should come from sadachar. Sadachar is Vaishnava etiquette. One should have Vaishnava etiquette. The spiritual master has Vaishnava etiquette, so he can teach Vaishnava etiquette to others. And similarly, we learn by observation, learn by listening, and learn by practicing it. And we also see the spiritual masters, they are practicing sense control. And therefore you see this very famous verse from Rupa Goswami, Vacha Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Pasta Vegam, very famous. Controlling the senses, very important. We shouldn't take information here and there and then make up our own philosophy. Our philosophy must be coming from the spiritual master authorities. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nilama Radha Giridhar Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Chintai Chaitanya Chandra Shri Chintai Gaura Chandra Ki Jai. Iskcon Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Otherwise when we start mixing different sets of rules and so on, and then define our own parameters, right? Parameters saying this is how I will be, and everyone should conform or conform with my set of understanding. That's wrong. It's very straightforward. Srila Prabhupada's system was so easy, that you're the authority, you listen, don't argue. And if someone come to complain, Srila Prabhupada will be sympathetic. He would listen to them. Then he said, you should follow the authorities. You don't become the guru. Why are you jumping over your guru? Are you a kangaroo? You become like an animal, like a fool. One time Srila Prabhupada mentioned how that, in a discussion his guru was giving a talk. So one of his godbrother was elderly. He was a doctor. And he was as old as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada was listening, and then when he was giving class, he would interrupt and started speaking to his Guru Maharaj. And actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't say anything at first. But then Srila Prabhupada himself put up his hand to talk, so he said something. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur got very angry. So Prabhupada said he saw his anger in his eyes. And then Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he attacked his disciple. He said, who do you think you are? The elderly person. He said, just because at the time this disciple was giving 60 rupees a month to the mat, to their temple, So he said, just because you're giving 60 rupees doesn't mean you know everything. You think I'm speaking for you? Do you think you know everything now that you are telling everyone what you know? So he said he chastised him so severely. And Prabhupada felt very bad, and then he kept quiet. Prabhupada himself kept quiet. So by chastising the other disciples, Bhaktisiddhanta was also telling Prabhupada, you cannot do these things. Why? What is the rule of speaking to a spiritual master? Submissive and not challenging. Unless you have this mood, you will never make advancement. It doesn't mean only to Guru you act like that. No, to spiritual authorities also, or even senior devotees. They may not be so advanced, but still one should be very careful, because otherwise you are going to commit aparad, aparada. That means you won't get Radha's mercy. No, that's what it is. You know, we want to be followers in the footsteps of Srimati Radharani. You know, otherwise it's aparad. And we cannot justify it. No, there's no justification. I remember one time I was serving my spiritual master, and then this devotee came, and then he put the shoes right in front of the plates where they were going to sit down to eat. So I was carrying prasad at the time. My Guru Maharaj is about to come, but Giriraj Swami was supposed to come, so I was running in. This was in Bombay. So I saw this clown put the shoes down. So immediately I took the shoes, and my Guru Maharaj walked inside. He saw me and said, "You foolish rascal, why are you carrying the shoes in one hand and prasad in the other hand?" So I felt very bad, you know. I thought, I didn't do this clown did this, you know. And so after that I went to tell my Guru Maharaj. I said, you know, the reason why he said, "I don't want to hear anything, get out from here." So then I realized, you know, the Guru is training you, you just listen, you know. Right? You just listen, you learn. Then I learned, oh yeah, he's just teaching me. He's not, he knows I should know better, but I made a mistake. You know, I should have put the prasad down and taken the shoes out and clean my hands and come back and serve like that. But in the heat of the moment, I was thinking I'm the glorious person doing service like that. But no, it's not like that. So when you surrender, what is that? Sishyasteham sadimam prapanna. As soon as Arjuna surrendered, Krishna chastised him. He said, you speak like a learned person, you're a fool. Obviously Krishna didn't call him a fool, but by saying you speak like a learned person but you don't know what you're speaking, indirectly he called him a fool. Yeah. So sometimes the spiritual master will not say you're a fool, but he will say something else like that, so that we will learn, you know. We need to take shelter of the Guru. Guru Ashrayam, Guru Ashrayam. Shelter of the spiritual master is very important. It's not just any Guru again. The emphasis here is on a bona fide spiritual master. Obviously when we say bona fide spiritual master, they mostly in the platform of Uttama Adhikaris. Now, you cannot go with a paper and pen and see who's Uttama Adhikari like that. By listening to them and listening and seeing their life, then you'll know this person is on the either Uttama Adhikari or on path of Uttama Adhikari. The reason why I say you can never know is because you yourself or we ourselves are not at the Uttama platform, so we cannot judge someone who is on that platform. How would we know? Okay, based on symptoms and so on, we can say, I suspect this person is at that platform. Yeah. So we should be very careful. So devotional service cannot be achieved simply by reading the books. That's the other thing. Oftentimes we read and we think we know everything also. There's so many fallacies in our understanding. What is the purpose of the Guru? The Guru is there to correct us. Yeah. We misinterpret, therefore we contradict, right? Sometimes you read Krishna is so contradictory, he does this and that. So how do you know? The Guru will tell you, because we don't have the proper adhikar, the proper ability to differentiate. Sometimes the pastimes are so amazing that we don't even know what's happening. So the Guru will open up, just like when sometimes you see an onion, right? Of course, in our case we don't need onions, or the rose flowers, right? So they may not be fully open, then the ladies soak them and then peel the petals apart, and then you can see all the different whorls in it, right? So in that way there's so many layers. So the Guru is like that. He can open the layers to show us how to understand the Shastra properly. That's the purpose in having a spiritual master, or at least a spiritual guide, you know. We cannot think always, I know everything. Oftentimes we think, oh, I understand properly. No, we should ask and clarify. Is this what it is, you know? Am I correct? Otherwise you become a weak disciple. If you take initiation and think you know yourself, then you become weak. Then one day you'll see everybody is making advancement. If you're fortunate enough to see that everyone is making advancement and you're not making advancement, then you should understand that means you are a weak person and you are tempted by not only the material energy, but you're also tempted by your senses. Particularly the mind. Sometimes we don't have good control of the mind, yet we think we know how. Like that. So the spiritual master can give us that which is coming from the spiritual world. This holy name, as Narottam Das Thakur says, right? Golokera Premandano Harinam Sankirtan. It's coming from Goloka Vrindavan. It's not coming from ABC 13 or what is that, Houston 2, NBC, Click to Houston, all those places. It's not coming from there. No, it's coming from Goloka, So Prabhupada also said how when he first met his disciples, he said, here I am sitting in New York. Then I'll read this. The world's greatest city, such a magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place. But then, why am I here? Now, because it is my duty, I have brought some message for you people. Because I have been ordered by my superior, my spiritual master. What did he say? Whatever you have learned, you should go to the Western countries and you must distribute this knowledge. So in spite of all my difficulties, all my inconveniences, I am here because I am obligated by duty. So he didn't come for any kind of wealth, he didn't come for some position, knowledge, no. He felt strongly that he had to fulfill his spiritual master's desires. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada had so many desires for all of us to participate in, either we do book distribution, maintain the deities, do preaching, whoever we meet, we can speak something nice, and hopefully they become enthused to find out more and then take up the process. We cannot expect all living entities to immediately take up the process. We cannot. That is the situation. And then another time a disciple fell away, and then later on he came, and Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who approaches me for spiritual enlightenment, I will never forget them. So the disciple came. And Prabhupada said, I'll never let you go. And then the disciple started crying, and Prabhupada started rubbing the disciple's head. He was so compassionate. He wasn't angry with the disciple. He understood this person is a foolish person who has fallen away, and now he's coming back. I cannot reject them. That's the humility and the compassion of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said how one time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave one of his grihastha men sannyas. So then they were sitting in the mat, and the new, just brand new sannyas sitting there. Then into the temple, his wife, ex-wife or wife came, started screaming at Bhaktisiddhanta and at her own husband. Big commotion. Then she dragged him and dragged him back to her home. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati started crying. And he said, I'm so fallen, I cannot save my disciple. But actually, that the sannyas disciple was weak. Because he wanted to take sannyas, and Bhaktisiddhanta gave him, thinking he can be strong. But then what happened? He gave in to his wife's demand. He could have said, no, this is the end. No. So it is not that the guru is not powerful enough. Sometimes we think this guru is not good, that guru is not. No. Sometimes the disciple is a fool. A first class rascal sometimes. And therefore they don't want to follow, but they think they know everything. And therefore you see so many problems. And then another time Srila Prabhupada's disciples were making a flyers, So it's two lady disciples made a flyer, but they put their foreign disciples, devotees. So then Prabhupada looked at the flyer and then he said, why foreign? What's wrong with you? Put the American and European devotees, disciples. It is more attractive. What is wrong with you all? And then he got so angry. Why you all don't know anything? Because you are ladies, so you didn't know anything. So Prabhupada was very harsh like that. So they both cried, the ladies who did the flyer, and they cried and they left. And of course, when they went out, they spoke to Shyama Sundar Prabhu, and then together they made the flyers. And then they came back later on, and when Prabhupada saw, he said, oh, this is so nice. And he spoke to them very sweetly. And then Prabhupada said, that, I chastise you because it is my duty. It's my duty as a spiritual master. That I cannot, be nice to you all the time. You may be my daughters and my child like that, but if I treat you like that, you will not then learn. You'll take things for granted like that. He said, I chastise you because I want to train you, and all of you come from very bad background. I'm paraphrasing, that your culture, you don't have good background like that. And so you can see again, there is a need for chastisement, and the chastisement is for the benefit of the disciple. And the Guru knows. Guru knows why. And so oftentimes when we get chastised by Guru, we shut down, all systems shut down, So we don't even know why the Guru is chastising. After that, when people ask, I don't know, my Guru just chastised me. So that means you're a rascal, you're not listening why your Guru is chastised. Right? Like that. Another time one disciple was trying to please Prabhupada. So every time for lunch, she'll bring the prasadam, and then she'll bring a garland. But in the garland she'll spray, just like all the ladies are spraying to keep it fresh. And so she pray, and then she'll garland Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was. So first day he kept quiet, second day he kept quiet, third day he says, stop this nonsense, You're giving with a wet garland onto your spiritual master, you are not pleasing me. You're not pleasing me. So sometimes, enthusiastic, we think we are doing everything right, but we do not understand what is required. We should ask. Is it wet? Is it dry? My Guru Maharaj, is the garland fine? And not that you want to look good or what, Generally Prabhupada won't even say, he'll just go, like that, If you are too proud, then he'll chastise you. And then another time, another disciple, where they were doing a morning walk, they were walking. And then the disciple was saying, Prabhupada, I heard that if you if you pass stool one time, then you are a yogi. If you pass stool twice, then you are a bogi. And if you pass stool 3 times, then you are a rogi. Then Prabhupada said, yes, that is true. It's in the scripture. Then they were walking. Then Prabhupada said, don't try to pass stool 1 time. And then he said, you think you are a yogi because you passed stool 1 time? So the disciple had realized, I'm trying to be so smart, but then the Guru just chastised him. False ego. Right? It is like that. So another disciple, this one was in UK, I think, Jayananda Maharaj was telling how they read about, first time they read about the 6 Goswamis. That the 6 Goswamis slept about 2 hours under a tree, one tree after another. So one of his disciples, Prabhupada's disciple, thought, I will also be like this disciple. Like the 6 Goswamis. So then he stopped sleeping foolishly. And so he would stay up reading and chanting, and he'll only sleep 1 or 2 hours. So he continued 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks like that. And then one Sunday feast, they were all having big kirtan, boom, all jumping and dancing, jumping. And then this devotee was there, and everyone's like amazed, this guy can do 2 hours a day, Then suddenly he fell down, and then he was just, everyone thought, what happened? So they all went to him, the kirtan stopped, and then he was snoring in the middle of the festive feast, Sunday feast. Why? Because the body cannot do, you cannot artificially do this thing. You have to approach the spiritual master and say, I want to do this. Is it okay? Do you recommend this? You're a fool. So spiritual masters are important for spiritual life, but we should not take them for granted. We shouldn't use them for our... sometimes I've heard this many times with my spiritual master. The disciples would come and say, Guru Maharaj, I've decided to do this and that. I think this will be good for me. My Guru Maharaj say, oh, you have decided. What is there for me to say? You have already decided. Another time one to-be disciple came with another lady and said, I'm going to marry this girl. Then Gurudev was so angry, my Guru Maharaj. He said, how can you you are my disciple, and then you go and pick someone that without even I knowing who she is, I do not know her background, anything. How can you come and tell me you're marrying? I care for you. I care for your spiritual life. How dare you come like that? The person never got initiated. He was supposed to take initiation that time. But because he did that, my Guru Maharaj said, no, I'm not initiating you. You don't know the relationship with the Guru and disciple. So we have to be very careful in our dealings with the spiritual master. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. So that's my cue. Oh, there was one more thing I like to say. One devotee, every time Srila Prabhupada, I think in Vrindavan, when Prabhupada comes to the gate to the temple room, this devotee would go and sing verses from the scripture to glorify Srila Prabhupada. So the other devotees would say, Prabhupada, he's chanting Prabhupada, okay. So one time Srila Prabhupada was very angry with the manager, so he was coming. So then this devotee was chanting again quickly. Everybody knew Prabhupada is angry, but he didn't care. Then Prabhupada looked at him and said, why don't you go and do something useful? So with that I end this class. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. If there are any comments or corrections or questions or anything if you want to add, feel free. Thank you very much.
This is just a comment.
Yes,
when
please.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also chastised Sanatana Goswami when he wants to suicide under
yes.
because he had some boils, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced it, and he said, if I don't embrace you, Krishna will not like it, because you are suffering, I neglect you. This body belongs to me, not to you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, when you get initiated, nothing belongs to you. Yes, Priyat.
I had a question. So, Janme Prabhu say, this is the spiritual master's or the disciple's mood. But what if the disciple rejects the guru or becomes really envious? Does the spiritual master come back for this type of disciple, birth after birth?
In this case it depends, there's a system for rejecting a guru, and so if the disciple rejects without any basis, then he will have to go to Naraka. It is said like that. Yeah, he has to go and suffer in hellish planets. The opportunity to get a bona fide guru may not happen. I think Chaitanya mentioned also one disciple was approached Srila Prabhupada and say, Srila Prabhupada, please pray that I can get a bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada said, I bless you for 60,000 lifetimes or something that you will not get a bona fide guru. Yeah. So it's offensive, very offensive, so they will suffer. Obviously, if there is compassion among the general group of devotees, just like Junior Haridas, when he made an offense that Mahaprabhu refused to forgive him, then the congregation of devotees were trying to help him out. So it is possible that devotees can help, but that devotee himself must recognize he made a mistake and must go to the Guru and plead for forgiveness like that. And hopefully the Guru will forgive. Many times the disciples would go away or commit offenses, and I remember one time my Guru Maharaj mentioned how this disciple was so horrible that my Guru Maharaj told Prabhupada, why don't you reject him, And then Prabhupada said to my Guru Maharaj, he said, Lord Nityananda is so merciful. Because I wanted to read this, but I didn't get a chance. But in the later on, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur mentions that the spiritual master is always considered to be either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. And Lord Nityananda went out of his way to get Jagai and Madai, who was the worst, right? And therefore, Prabhupada refused to reject, So generally, in this case, Janme Janme Prabhu say, if the disciple is so horrible, the Guru not necessarily will come back, but he can send representatives also. But yes, Prabhupada said, don't let me come back, which means Prabhupada wanted personally to bring everyone back. So in that case, even my Guru Maharaj also said like that, don't let your Guru come back. Because maybe Krishna will say, hey, he's your disciple, what are you doing about it? So that's a compassion. Alright, I think we'll need to stop here. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Tomorrow's verse is 22. Oh yeah. You should have said that, I forgot,
Who else has the guts to tell you like this, right?
That's true, thank you.